Hello everybody, Mr. Gorell here. How are you doing? This is gonna be a little bit different of a video. While playing KOTOR, I came across the histories of the Sand People, and I thought it might be a fun video. In case you're just wondering, you can come straight to this video and find out about the histories. The first part is, I put it in there just so you can get a kind of a feel how they don't want outsiders around. And then the second part is the storyteller actually goes through the stories of the Sand People, what the planet was like back then, what happened to them. I thought it was a pretty cool and interesting story. If you like this kind of video, just give it a thumbs up. It really does help. Or sub so you can keep up with all the crazy antics that I do. All right, guys, let's jump into the story. Let's see what happens.
Result. I believe I have succeeded in confusing him, Master. We have shown an interest not common among outsiders. Translation. Translation. He is expressing disbelief, as am I, but his duty requires that he report to his chieftain. Extrapolation. It would seem that we are at least worthy of curiosity for the moment. I would much rather this get bloody, Master, but it is your call.
It is.
Translation. I can translate with some guarantee of accuracy that he is demanding to know why he should let us survive this encounter, Master. Translation. Translation. He claims he has no reason to believe you, Master. Your kind have tainted this land with machines and uncaring, ignorant feet. Translation. He requires proof of good faith. We must make a contribution to his people that shows we are not a threat. Shall I blast him now, Master? Translation. Translation. He refuses to waste breath on you until you are proven to be an ally of his people. He seems quite adamant about it. Please, let me blast him, Master. Translation.
I was over here in her sports car.
Translation. He plans to move his people farther from Anchorhead, but they need to build up stores of water first. He says you must aid him. Translation. He wants moisture evaporators from the Zerka. If you deliver them, he will order that his people reduce their attacks on miners. Translation. Translation. He says that will never happen, Master. Ignorant outsiders continually desecrate their most reverential customs. This will always demand a response, an attitude I can respect.
Nice.
Protocol. From his perspective, a reduction is already a large step. It is doubtful you will get agreement on much more than that.
Okay. All right.
Translation.
We will see what we can do to help him.
Translation. He does not believe you, Master. We will only be allowed to re-enter the Enclave when we have the evaporators with us. Translation. We are to be escorted outside. He will wait, but he doesn't believe we are coming back.
About to say, yeah, up on that too.
Extrapolation. This guard doesn't appear honored to have the job of greeting us. Translation. Translation. He will take us before the chieftain, as he was instructed to do. Translation. He did not expect us to return, Master. He wonders if we have brought the moisture evaporators.
Well, of course we did.
Translation. Translation. He does not trust you, Master, but you have done more than any other outsider. They will not attack, and he grants you his chieftain's Gaffy as reward.
Oh, wow.
Translation. The attacks will be reduced, and he will allow you to explore this enclave, but be warned that any lack of respect will result in death. Protocol. This will be a very sensitive topic. Translation. Translation. He says that he will not, Master. There is one storyteller in each clan, and only he may recite the histories.
Oh, wow. That's kind of cool.
Translation. Translation. He says that you don't understand. They must never be told to someone who might say them incorrectly out of ignorance. Translation. To speak them in error is a blasphemy punishable by death. Only their greatest warriors are even permitted to listen to the tales. Translation. Translation. He doesn't know, Master. His people usually kill outsiders. Since you are an outsider yourself, that would not suffice. Translation. The greatest challenge for a warrior is to face a great dragon, the largest predator on Tatooine. Fight one of those, and bring back a dragon pearl. Discussed. I think he's making fun of you, Master. He doesn't believe an outsider could do such a thing. Translation. Translation. He is stupefied, Master. He never thought you... Translation. He will allow you to meet the storyteller. Translation. The storyteller will be summoned to one of the rooms here in the Enclave. He seems to think this is a great honor for you, Master. Translation. Translation. We are free to leave. Translation. He identifies himself as the storyteller, Master. He has been told of your warrior skills and will speak the history to you. Translation. Translation. There is only one accepted history, passed orally to each successive generation. Translation. A book or datapad can be taken away, cheapening the value of what it contains. To commit it to paper or storage is to remove it from the people. Translation. Translation. You may choose to hear the history, or you may choose not to. Their history is a single entity that cannot be partitioned. Translation. The only exception is in continuing the tales once they have begun. If you leave, when you return, he will continue from where he left off. Translation. Translation. It begins with the ancient times. They were not sand people, for there was no sand. The land was green with life, and they walked without wrappings.
Nice.
Translation. Though the land was beautiful, they lived apart from the land. They built their walls high and saw beyond the horizon. They dared to reach the stars. Translation. There are no words for how long ago this was. It was before the outsiders, before the abduction, before the cities fell, before the builders. Translation. Translation. His arrogant people touched the stars, and this sin drew the attention of the builders. The builders did not touch the stars, they lashed them to millstones. Translation. Great demons of metal stripped the world of its riches, until all that was left was the green of the ground. the great cities were lifted away. Translation: those that had used the wealth were taken along with it. Transgressors abducted to serve past the sky, seeding the stars with penitent, adaptable slaves. Translation: Translation: there came a time when the builders were also judged for their crimes. After generations, a plague weakened them, and the time of the Great War began. Translation: the builders faltered, and his people realized why they had been punished, so that they understood the crime, and would now strike down the greater offender. Translation: they worked chaos in the machines, so they destroyed themselves. The builders fought back, laying waste to the green that had been misused with fire from above. Translation: soil became glass, grinding to sand, but the fight was long planned, and his people were safe, deep in cave homes carved from valley wall.
This is an amazing
were
story.
free. Translation: editing, if I may, Master. This section of his tale details several millennia of the Long Walk, their nomadic wanderings as they accept their identity in a desert world. Rather than strain my circuits on his dialect, might we just assume there was much fighting over who has the biggest bantha and move on to more recent things? Resignation. Very well, Master. Translation: the tribes spread far, distant from each other, but all as sand people, and all cherished the land that remained. The sand would not be misused. Translation: then machines fell from the stars again, outsiders like you that brazenly walked apart from the land. And greater still was the insult to come. Translation: these outsiders reminded them of their past transgression, of the time when they too walked apart from land. The outsiders, your kind, looked like their ancient abducted. Translation: so it is to the current sons that the Sand People hate all outsiders and give them no footing. You come again, time after time, adaptable slaves to the machine. Editing. The last 1,000 years are full of conflicts with different groups of attempted planetary settlers, all of whom are poorly described, long dead, and likely untraceable. I believe I have truncated it down to the usable bits in what was already said. I hope it is enough, Master. Translation.
And that's the story. I thought it was a pretty cool story. I wanted to share with you guys. I hope you enjoyed it too. A little bit of crazy history of the Sand People and what the planet used to be like. It's kind of cool. All right, guys, we'll catch you next time. Have a great day.